we always said great things don't come from comfort zones. I think that if I were to explain Tommy to you guys in college, like the first thing that comes to mind, free spirit. And I was like, oh my gosh, I think I want kids now.
Crazy, huh? So the grass that we're standing on.
Exactly.
On this side.
What rapper can you find in a toolbox?
No MSR. Sorry, guys.
People. ASMR.
So I said it right?
No.
ASMR.
Okay, let's dive in.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Nguyen Nguyen podcast, where we upload an episode every single week. And if you're new here, welcome to the podcast. And if you're a returning viewer or subscriber, welcome back. It's so good to have you. And this podcast, it's all about us sharing our lives with you on a week-to-week basis about the struggles or maybe the tensions that we're feeling and how we're processing all of that. And we want to share that with you in hopes of that whoever's viewing this right now or listening to the podcast, that we can relate or connect to you in some type of way.
Yeah, and I think that people feel connected through stories that people share. I think that's how connection happens and that's how it begins. And so it's like Tommy said, the tensions, the struggles, but also the good things in our life, in hopes of like encouraging people through this podcast, because it's all about sharing stories with each other, online and offline. We just start the conversation and then we have people who listen to the podcast continuing it with us afterwards. And so that is our heart behind It's a Win-Win podcast. And every Wednesday we just dive into certain topics and things we're feeling. And by the way, if you haven't met yet, my name is Sopa Nguyen.
And my name is Tommy Nguyen.
And we're excited to be here today.
Yeah, let's do this. All right, so this week, what we have on our hearts right now and what we want to talk about is purpose. So last week, if you were able to tune in and you've listened to the podcast, we talked about saying the painful realities of saying yes to certain opportunities that may make us feel uncomfortable. So really stepping out of your comfort zone, and then how that can help us find our purpose in one way or another. So today we're going to dive in and talk about purpose, our perspective on it, what that means to us, and why that's so important for us.
Yeah, so if you guys haven't seen last week's episode, make sure you guys tune in, because it really does set up today's podcast. And I think it gives you a little more context of where we're coming from and how we think about purpose. Because purpose is such an interesting conversation that we've had over the years. I feel like my purpose continues to almost change because I had this weird idea of what my purpose in life was, and now turning 28 this year in a couple of months, I'm like, I'm so different now.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is different. And when we think about like purpose and all what that means, I like to go back to when, growing up, right? We go to school.
Yeah.
We have grade school, K through 12. So we're grade school, middle school, high school. And when we're in high school, we're taking these classes and then we're looking for colleges to go to, right? We're trying to choose the best college that we think is going to be the best for us.
Yeah.
And once we get into college, we figure out what our major, what we want to study.
Even before college.
Or even before, I guess we want to figure out what you want to study before you go to college.
And you're like 16. I think that...
Yeah, that's crazy.
The way that... And also, this is just our perspective, like we said, on purpose. And so we're just going to share, again, our experiences with you guys. But to be able to pick what you want to do at such a young age, that is just wild to me, because you evolve so much as a person. And to think that like social media was something that I started in 6th grade, to then I'm like, oh, I've been doing it for so long, I want to make this my career. And then I'm like, this is my purpose in my life. And I'm like, I don't know. It's changed a little bit.
Yeah. So, once we choose our college, right, we go through college, we study what we study, and then we graduate, right? Or right before graduation, now what are we doing? We're looking for jobs. We're looking for our career jobs that we went to school for.
There's nothing wrong with this, by the way, like at all.
Yeah.
And I feel like both of us were really ambitious of like wanting to find stuff in construction, finding a great company. For me, finding a great company, I like wanted to work for these cool companies. Like, I just felt like that's what we wanted.
And I think ambition is great. I think it is vital for people. And some of us have it more and some of us don't have it as much. But I think it is a vital part in our lives for sure.
I mean, I would like to say that I think I was a little like too ambitious, because all I wanted was like to feel what success felt like, what it felt like to have money, what it felt like to just get whatever I wanted, right? I don't think it wasn't really for the right reasons. Really, it was just like, I just want to make all this money and like become someone, which I don't think is a bad reason, but it's just at some point in my life, I was like, is this really all there is to it? Is just working so hard and just making money? Is
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
is
it's
that all that
I
defines
think it's
me?
it's very like career driven, right? And I think we're
Mm-hmm.
conditioned in that way with just the way we described, our school career. We all go to school
Mm-hmm.
for the most part, right? Not all of us pursue higher education, which is totally fine.
Yeah.
Nowadays you can be okay with a high school diploma. Is that what I call it? A diploma, right? Not
Yeah.
degree,
I mean, I
a
have people in
diploma.
my family who've never even graduated high school and
Hmm.
they have this amazing career. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's different, you know?
It is different. So, as we kind of dive into that and talk about careers, because where we live in Silicon Valley is very career driven.
Mm-hmm.
People, I want to say people, but like I guess people here who live in Silicon Valley, from what I've observed and have experienced, are very career driven, high ambition, which I
Mm-hmm.
love. I love high
We
ambition.
are ambitious people.
And, a lot of the times we wrap our self identity in our careers, in what we do.
And we think that's the purpose in our life.
And we think that's the purpose in our lives. And before we kind of dive a little bit deeper into, what we're going to talk about
Mm-hmm.
today, let's define what that means. So right before this podcast, I looked up what purpose is, the textbook definition of purpose, and that is the reason of which something exists. So that's like the textbook, the shortened definition of purpose textbook, right? And when we think about purpose, it's like, okay, why do we exist? Like if I understand why I exist, and I have purpose,
Yeah.
in,
Yeah.
in a short, like kind of basic way of saying that.
And it's so crazy to think that like I have said, I think you can dive into what you feel on this,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm like, my purpose is to run a business and offer social media services in that business.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to only exist
Mm-hmm.
to do social media.
Yeah.
I feel like that's just not fulfilling enough.
So the reason for which something exists, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's a whole nother tension right there. It's like, people who are in their careers may not feel fulfilled in what they think might be their purpose. So when I think about purpose, this is kind of the way I define it in my own words, is it's how do we provide value? And I think when you can provide value in a certain area, this is where you can find that sense of purpose. So, for example, the things that we have in our lives, just think about that. Like a car. A car has purpose, right? Because it takes us from point A to point B. That's the value that it brings. So it has a reason to exist. It has a purpose. Another example is like this camera that I'm looking at right now. That has a purpose for me, because it's recording me, so I'm able to share this with you guys as we're speaking right now. Or maybe if you're listening onto the podcast, I'm speaking into this mic. This mic has purpose as well, because it provides value for me for what I need it to do. And so when we look at human beings, right, we all can provide value in some way, and in one form or another. So we all can provide value and have that purpose, right? We all have purpose. We're all here on this earth, for a purpose.
Yeah, but it's not just being a microphone, a camera, or an object, right? It's like
Yeah,
we are
it's so
created
much
to
more
be
than
so
that.
much more.
Yep.
But then I think a lot of people, including myself, have just put myself in the corner of like social media is your purpose, just do it for the rest of your life. And I'm like, I don't know. Facebook and Instagram could die today, and I would be like, well, what's my purpose then? It's so
Yeah.
easy to be taken away from me that I'm like, there has to be more to life than this.
Yes, and like so Pa said, we're more than just like an object. We're more than just this mic that I'm speaking into, because we were all created in unique ways with unique gifts, unique talents, and we're all here for a purpose, on purpose.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing for me right now, from what I'm realizing myself, is like when we hear the question like, what is your purpose, or what is my purpose?
Yeah.
I think that it's misunderstood, because when you're asked that question, the thing you think about is like, what is my purpose? And you think of it as a destination, and in reality, it's a process. When you answer that question, what is my purpose? Really, the word purpose, it's not a destination, but it's a process, because in my opinion, what I believe, that when you're trying to find your purpose, right? Like
Yeah.
many of us are, it's an ongoing thing.
And it changes.
There's no like dead end. There's no stop. And it continues to change. It continues to evolve. And, we talked about like going to school, right? Our school career. I mean, look at all the different things that we have to go through. In
Yep.
high school, you're looking for a college. When you're in college, you're looking for a career. And once you have your career, like, what's the next thing? It's like, it's a journey and it's a process.
I love that because I don't think it's addressed and talked about in that way. It's like my purpose is in life is to be like I could say like an aunt or like to all my nieces and soon to be here nephew, and I'm like, but what happens when that's I don't know. It's like even if it's like you feel like your purpose is to be an awesome mom or a dad, it's like, but those kids are going to grow up, and then what else is there, right? I feel like it just changes all the time.
It's a moving thing. It's a moving target in a way, and it's the journey. And we all have individual journeys.
Yeah, and where you are at this moment in your life, you might not see it now. You might see it later, like what your purpose is in all of this. And I don't know. I just think about my brother who like has been so faithful to this job that he's worked in so many years. My brother-in-law and my brother, right? And because of their faithfulness in their jobs, and it might not be this whole like glamorized like job, right? That's like, ooh, I'm a fancy high end, I don't know, executive or something.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's almost like blue collar type of work,
It
right?
is blue collar work, for sure.
But because they've been so faithful into their purpose at that time to provide value for their company, they can now provide and support for their family in ways that they never could imagine. Like now they're dads and their husbands, and they like really just show up for their family. And I'm like, that is their purpose. It was to be faithful in that job, and they still are, and providing value and showing up every day and working hard. But that greater next level purpose is like, because of that faithfulness, it can transfer over to the family and like provide and to do more. And like when their kids have kids, and I think it's just purpose, just like it's a process, but it builds up.
Yeah. It's to me, it's a never ending journey
Because
until the day
you die.
until the day you're no longer on earth. And I'm really intrigued. I would really be intrigued in asking that same question. What do you think your purpose is? Ask someone maybe who's in their early 20s, who's maybe in college, to someone who has a little bit, maybe is further along in their career and is like 50 or 60 and has been, working their career jobs for like the last 30, 40 years, and to see their responses, to see, just to compare their responses and to hear, what someone who's at a different life stage versus another person who's, in another life stage.
I love it though. I think if you take one thing away from today's podcast, for me, it's like finding your purpose is a process. It's a journey. It's not a destination, because like in our early 20s, all I cared about was career, ambition, career. A lot of people are like that. It makes sense. We've been working so much of our lives to get a job.
Yeah.
Right. And now that we have the job and we have the stability, it's like, how about when we start to have kids, or like now that we're married? Like, I feel like part of my purpose is just to be a great wife and a great aunt and a great sister, and a great daughter.
Yeah. And how would you say your mindset has shifted, with all of that, with what you just said? When you first started, when we first moved out here to California, we were very career driven.
All I cared about was like growing my business, my brand, getting people to know who I am in a place where no one knows who I am. I like wanted to make it so bad. And then when I started getting all the clients and all that, I'm like, this is all great, but like, I feel like there's more to me and my identity than a social media manager, social media marketer, the social media girl, right? I'm like, well, I'm now married, and I just want people to think about that, like who I am as a person, and also how I treat them. That was a huge shift, because like here in the Bay Area, the businesses are just like, and I don't want to say everyone is, but basically overall what I feel is like it's money, sales, ROI, returns. Like it's all about what can you do for me and how much money can you make me. I mean, it's business. It makes sense, right? But I'm like, well, how about how I treat people in that process of providing value to them? I have the value of social media, but how can I make people feel while providing the value?
Yeah. And do you feel so maybe your sense of purpose has changed
I think
over the years?
Because like at Purdue, my purpose was to like learn and dive into social media management so I could build a business out of it, right? And like my purpose at that time was just to be a Purdue student. There was nothing more to that. Like my nieces were doing their own thing. Like I wasn't as family oriented, right?
Yeah.
And that was my purpose then. Now it's shifted to like, how can I treat people well? I've always wanted to treat people well, but like I was a different person then,
Yeah.
a little more savage, a little like more slow. I was just not slow to anger. I was very impatient and like
So you're saying
things
like,
like
you know,
that.
kind of like as you grow as a person, that's when maybe your purpose starts to kind of evolve a little bit, starts
Yeah,
to
you
shift a
get,
little
it's
bit.
like next level. Like I really see it as like this whole process.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, sure, social media. Like without social media, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Yeah,
Right. And
yeah.
so it was important. But now it's like when I interact with my team and my clients, how do I treat them? How do I make them feel? How do I
Mm-hmm.
leave them? When I'm done with the project, how do I make clients feel?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it's to make them feel better than how I found them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They feel
Yeah.
encouraged. They feel like they can do this. They feel like, wow, Sophie really taught me a lot.
Mm.
Or she really gave it her all. And that's how I feel at this moment, is like how I'm treating people. And just to be faithful to where I am right now.
Yeah. I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense too. Like early on, right? I think we self-identify ourselves with our careers.
Mm-hmm.
And but then as you realize, like just down the road, as you gain more experience, as you just grow as a person,
Yeah.
the way you self-identify becomes, I would say, changes or evolves in a way, and maybe that's according to the sense of purpose that you may have during each season in your life.
Yeah, I think about one of our friends. She is a graphic designer,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so this is like, she's here, the one of the first steps, right? Fresh out of college,
Mm-hmm.
graphic design is a thing, and she's diving in more. It's like, but I want to do design that makes an impact on people's lives and makes a difference in this world,
Mm-hmm.
not just designing like a cool logo.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just she identified a second level, like another
Mm.
level, and I think she's going to get even higher and higher in what that looks like for her life.
Yeah.
You know, because she's not saying like I just want to work at any company and just design. Like I feel like
Yeah.
that's like step one. It's like social media or construction,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like what in construction?
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. So I think that really shifts the perspective on purpose, meaning like, you know, instead of being so career focused, now you're in a way like character focused.
Yes.
You're focused on not necessarily what you are doing,
Mm-hmm.
but you're focused on who you are and who you want to become.
Yeah, because people could be like, well, I'm working at some job that I feel like I don't really provide value, but you do.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm always like, and I think that's what I mean when we talk about how to treat people,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's like, let's say you work at the front desk of some place. It's like you are providing so much value more than you can see.
Mm-hmm.
And like how you treat people goes such a long way.
Yeah. And I know we've been focusing on some of like the career side of things, like just jobs in general.
Yeah.
And we understand not everyone is working right now.
Yeah.
We get that. And so your value doesn't necessarily have to be you doing, you know, some job or doing
No.
some work. It could just be, think about the closest people around you. How are you providing value to them? Maybe you're this person who has really good energy and is
Yes.
happy. You can be
Positive.
positive and you can be very encouraging and empowering to those people around you, because that can be very, I would say, contagious.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
positivity, et cetera, right? And it's like if you're someone right now maybe who's feeling down in the dumps or it's not feeling, you know,
Mm-hmm.
too confident about yourself, you know, just think about those things. It's like,
Yeah.
how can we provide value to other people in a way, and maybe hopefully this can be encouraging to you to see things in a different lens, to
I
see
love it.
purpose in a different way.
I love it because let's just say you, like Tommy said, you're not working, but like you have a gift of cooking.
Mm.
Like, what would it look like for you to lean in and like cook people meals of that are moving, friends
Mm-hmm.
that are like, that lost their job,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you live in abundance of being able to cook these meals that don't cost a lot and it tastes amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Like that could be your purpose at that time. And who knows what that could be
Yeah.
later on in life.
Mm-hmm.
But like Tommy said, we're all equipped with different gifts. You don't want me cooking you a meal because I'm just not the one. I'm gonna DoorDash you
Yeah,
something.
yo, that's true.
I can cook like a handful of things really well, but outside of that, it's not like I'm gonna cook some like crazy thing for you. But like for you, right? That could be something for you later down the line that
Yeah.
you really enjoy. But like you might not even see it yet.
Yeah, if you guys, this is a super side note. If you guys ever had the ribs I've made, you know, it's good. It's good. I mean, what would you say?
What?
My ribs.
They're great.
So maybe down the line when I'm like 50 years old, I might start a Mr. Tom's Ribs shack or something,
Mm-hmm.
which sounds amazing.
Yeah. So like if you guys are not like in this career job or you're just like, oh, I don't really like my job right now. It's just providing for me, pays the bills. Like
Mm-hmm.
don't feel like there's I just don't want, I don't know. We don't want you guys to feel like you don't have a purpose in that, because I really do
Yeah.
feel like you do. And I feel like every opportunity that you're placed in is an opportunity for you to learn more about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And my business coach always told me, she's like, Sophie, you're in, because I would have difficult clients. Like
Yeah.
work was
Oh
hard,
yeah. It's not easy.
I literally would be like crying about this stuff, so stressed out. And she's like, you are being prepared for something greater than you can see. You're going to look
That's
back and be
good.
like, this is so, like when I think about my most difficult clients, I look back and I'm like, man, I'm so thankful like I overcame that.
Mm-hmm.
But it prepares me for something more,
Yeah.
and who knows what that is.
And really how I see that too is like we're growing, as we get prepared into one thing and we were able to, get through that, overcome that, then you grow into the next thing. And you grow into the next thing. And then again, that all to me goes accordingly with your purpose. Right? Your purpose grows. It grows with you.
Yeah. And I feel like if you don't know it, for me, what I did, it was like a whole, like I felt like months and months of this, like sitting down and understanding, like, what am I here for?
Yeah.
And reading that Love Where You Live book really did help me. Like, just like your purpose is where you are right now. Like, it doesn't need to be this whole like extravagant thing of like, because when I was younger, I was like, I'm going to have this amazing business. I'm going to hire these people. I'm going to have this amazing office. I haven't lost sight of what that is.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I don't have to be so in the clouds and ambitious all the time when it comes to my purpose. It's like, why can't I just treat my clients well
Yeah.
and love
That's
them?
true. And it's so simple. I love
It's
it.
so
Yeah.
simple. Like, I felt like it really, Gary Vee talks about this like prison or box of anxiety or something. There was like, he is saying a lot better than I am. But basically, when you're like, I'm going to be a millionaire by the time I'm 30, he's like, that creates a block and chains of anxiety for you.
Yeah, and he says that it creates limitations, right? Like
Yeah.
you've just lost there just by saying that because you've limited yourself to this box.
Yeah. And so it's like, it doesn't need to be this, like, I'm going to be the governor of California by the time I'm 35. It's like, I mean, unless you're on that track, that's great, but that's big, and it
Yeah.
almost makes you feel so anxious. You give this yourself the anxiety, at least for me,
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
like, oh man, I'm almost 30. How come I don't have like this like beautiful office in New York City and like Chicago and all these things for Soul Gold? It's like, because that's what I thought was going to happen in my life. It's like,
yeah, and
relax.
yeah, and it creates all of that. And I just kind of laugh because like, who wants to be governor? Like, I would not want to be governor.
We say that all the
of
time when it comes to
anything.
politics.
I don't want to even get into like any of that stuff.
No, I know, but I'm always like, man, why do people want to do this? But
Well, props to them. Props to you guys who want to be governor, who want to be in politics.
in politics,
Like,
bless you.
God bless you.
Yeah, but people feel that way about social media. So
Yeah, that's true.
We're like, oh, it's
we
great.
all have different gifts and skills and all that stuff. So
exactly.
That's
And
so
so
funny.
one thing Tommy said to me when we were preparing for this podcast is like, people are not gonna remember, like when you're on your deathbed, people are gonna be like, wow, Tommy was so good at construction and like he did all these cool things in construction. Like,
yeah, no, I think that's really true. I think we can get into that. I think just kind of one thing, at least for myself, my personal experience with a sense of purpose. I know I have found myself digging and asking deeper questions, really the meaning of life, and
accurate.
this might get real deep.
Tommy is all about that deep internal, deep thinking.
Well, it's because I think my personality is I do want to provide value. I do want to have a sense of purpose. It's something that I naturally long for, and I think a lot of my behavior and the way I am reflects that. Because, like, I think we've talked about in the podcast before, if we're in a group of friends and everyone's conversating, and sometimes, so Paul may notice I'm not really talking. She's like, hey, like, she'll try to help me engage. And I've said before, like, sometimes I just won't talk if I have nothing to say. It's because I feel like I have nothing valuable to contribute to the conversation, so I just won't talk. And I think that reflects my sense of purpose. It's like, okay, if I do have something valuable to say and I want to contribute to the conversation, I will, because now I think what I'm saying has a sense of purpose. And so for me personally, I really long for that. And I think it's just part of my personality.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest like shift for me right now, at least the evolution of my sense of purpose, is so before like we talked about, we moved here very career driven, and I considered myself very much a lone wolf. Like I need to, I can't rely on people. I
don't need help.
I definitely worked on teams. I don't need help. working with teams, it's more like, come on, let's go. And because I was very, very ambitious, and I still have very high ambitions.
For sure.
But now I think that's not really like, what value am I providing there? Like in that way, if I'm just like going and trying to like drag people along with me, and I just don't think there's really a true purpose there. So
I will say, I'll lean into that a little more though. You were like that, right? In construction, it was like, come on, guys, let's go. It wasn't so much relational as much as it was like, let's just get this project done with excellence, right? Which is, people need that at work. You want to do, especially for the type of project.
Yeah.
But now, 5 years later, you are pouring into people with pushing excellence. So
Yeah, so I think it's maybe leading in a different way,
is.
where instead of like standing on this, like on this rock and say, come on guys, let's do this, like trying to encourage them, etc. Now it's more, I'm with my team, I'm side by side supporting them,
Yep.
encouraging them in that way. And that's where I really kind of feel my sense of purpose is right now, is like when I am working with people in teams, I want to meet them where their needs are at. I want to help them get to where they want to get to by supporting them as much as I can, and whatever I can bring to the table to help them.
But in a more personal level versus like, all right, this is a project, let's get it done and do it with excellence. It's like, hey, I realize you're like going through a rough time right now. Like, is there anything I can help you with? And then they kind of feel like you're meeting them where they are, and then you're able to help bring them up to like a higher level. And I think that is what your purpose is right now.
I would say that's a growth in my area, because I wasn't just naturally like that. Like I had to grow and learn and understand and apply all those things to become more relational than just a transactional thing.
Yeah, and I feel like, I mean, that book I was reading, the Everyone Communicates, Not Everyone Connects, everyone can learn to be a connector. And he said that in the book over and over. And I don't like this limitation of like, I mean, it's kind of a tangent, but like everyone can be better at connecting. And I think that's what makes us better in our purpose. Because our purpose is about, it's more than just ourselves. It's more than just our career. It's like, how about the people around you? That's like a huge part of your purpose.
And like I almost want to get this out of my vocabulary, is like I want to stop saying like this is just the way I am, because that's the biggest limitation, like limiting phrase you can ever say about yourself. It's like, oh, that's just the way I am.
I love it. That gets me fired up because
like,
it's so limiting.
Yeah, you can come as you are, but you don't have to leave as who you were. Or you can leave better. I messed that up completely, but come as you are.
But don't stay.
And leave, and you don't have to stay that way.
You don't have to stay that way.
That's what it is, right?
Yeah.
I'm always messing up on all these phrases. See, I'm still learning. I'm still growing.
That's okay. That's what we love about you. Yeah. So when you come in as something, you don't need to leave that same person, is what you're saying.
Come as you are, but you don't have to stay that way.
Yeah. I love it.
That's it, man.
And that's who you are. That's your purpose right now.
It is. And so I hope you guys are encouraged by this, those of you who are listening or watching right now. And I hope you guys, maybe get a better sense of your purpose, and, in this season of your life.
Yeah.
But to wrap this up, you guys made it this far. Thank you so much for watching or listening to the podcast. I just want to leave you guys with just one question. And this is more of the reflection question. And so Paul mentioned it earlier. If you were... Think about the people you're closest to. Think about the closest people, the people in your inner circle. If you were on your deathbed and you had your closest people, friends and family around you, what would they say about you? Think about that. Let's say you were going to be in your deathbed tonight, and then all your closest friends and families are surrounding you. What would they say about you? Right?
Yeah.
Think about it.
It's very serious.
This is a deep thing. Purpose. Your life's purpose is a deep thing, and we want to go beyond the surface.
I laugh because
you laugh because I'm a deep person.
I know, it's just so funny, but this is really who he is.
It is, and just think about that, right? Think about it, and comment down below what you think your purpose is right now in this season of your life. Because, like we said earlier, purpose is a journey, not a destination, and that's gonna wrap us up for today.
I love it. I hope you guys were encouraged by today's podcast. I know that I was, and to not live in this like cell and chains of anxiety, because honestly, I created so much of that for myself. And that's why this podcast is about our experience and our perspective on purpose. Because if we can help one person not have to go through that anxiety, I would be happy about that. Like, don't force yourself into something that's like your end all be all. You know,
Yeah.
like you
Yeah.
can
Because that's not
change.
purpose. Purpose is not your end all be all.
But I thought it was a little ambitious so paw, you know, I'm like, I'm going to go out and get it. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, no, it doesn't need to be like that. And
Yeah.
so maybe your purpose right now is just to be an awesome nurse and
Or
to
friend.
serve people well. Yeah. Or like you're going to cook meals for people because you have the gift of cooking and people are going through a really hard time this year.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be this wild thing. And
Yeah. Because it's going to change.
yeah, we would love to hear what you guys thought about today's podcast in the comments below. If you're watching on YouTube, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel, you guys. And if, you know, I had a friend that told me they don't subscribe on YouTube, like to any channels because they don't like to. And if you're one of those, at least do the thumbs up. Okay. Give us a
Yeah,
thumbs
just
up.
it's really encouraging for us, and it really helps us to continue creating,
Yeah.
these podcast episodes. And we love the engagement, so thank you, Chelsea. I see you commenting on our
Yes.
videos.
We love you, Chelsea.
And there's a bunch of others I know who also comment as well. So thank you guys for doing all of that.
It really does mean the world. And I will never stop saying that because I genuinely mean it. Like your support. And like I mentioned Gina in last week's episode and she texted me and she started like, I forgot exactly what she said. I maybe like laughed or something because she's like, I listen to your podcast every week now. And I'm like, wow, like
That's amazing.
that touched me. And
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
felt, it really gives me purpose in everything that when I struggle through my week and I'm tired or I'm pushing through hard challenges, but when I sit here and I think about people that could be impacted by this podcast, it just reminds me to lean in and like finding your purpose. Like Tommy said, it's a hard thing. It's a deep thing. It's not just this easy solution, and like in that process, it's also hard work,
Yeah.
like
Not
pushing
easy.
through. So yep, we'll see you guys next Wednesday for It's a Win-Win Wednesday, and we'll see you guys next week.
Yep. All right. Peace out.
Bye.